around as though nobody would recognize him.
Right.
And then my colleague, one of the people that works with me, was at the booth, and he just was like, he showed up behind the booth and then was like there as like a bunch of people came and were like talking to them about Luminaid.
Wait, Mark was your booth babe at CES?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Cuban is the best booth babe at CES, I think.
Welcome to the Shark Tank Podcast. Each week, one of the best entrepreneurs from ABC's network smash hit Shark Tank teaches you how to swim with the sharks without being eaten alive. And now your host, serial entrepreneur, TJ Hale.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Shark Tank Podcast. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, just so you know, you can catch the video interview of Andrea and I on YouTube. Go check it out right now. It'll be awesome. She's in her kitchen and she's going to show you how the Luminaid works. Andrea.
This is where we usually work from, by the way.
Yeah, so. Right. Don't be humble. It's fine. If you work out of your kitchen, some people don't know that Mark Cuban's a slave driver. So if he's making you work out of your house, I get that. Not a problem.
Well, he's also extremely responsive anytime, day or night. So the fact that he expects that of his entrepreneurs, I think, is pretty fair.
Yeah, he works out of his kitchen. Not a big deal. That's cool.
Yeah,
no, I'm totally joking. All right. So Andrea, along with her partner, Anna, are the co-founders of Luminaid. And for those of you who can't remember what Luminaid is, it is a portable, I guess you can't just say it's emergency lighting because it's also for camping and for, what's a better word for emergency? What kind of lighting is it? Portable what?
We say utility. So it's basically just something that you can have really handy, either when the lights are out in an emergency or just when you're camping or you're on your boat. It doesn't need any additional batteries. All you need to do is charge it in the sun, and you get up to 30 hours of LED light.
30 hours, portable LED light, and it also floats.
So yeah, it's like all of our designs are waterproof and they float. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Okay, so that was an extended welcome to the show. It's been almost a year to the day since you first aired. How are things going?
Things have been busy in a good way. So yeah, it's good timing to check back in because again, it's been a year. So since we filmed the show aired last February. We closed our deal with Mark Cuban a few months after the show aired.
Spoiler alert for people a year behind.
Sorry?
So spoiler alert for people who are still a year behind. Your partner's with Cuban.
No, sorry, I ruined it for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been obviously like a big influence this year in all of our growth. And as people who probably listen to this podcast often, like Mark has a whole team working behind him. So it's been really good to work with him and his team. And again, like he's super responsive. We can email him anytime, ask him questions. And it's been a huge help.
So how often do you send the 3 a.m. email? Because everyone who works with him will tell me he answers emails 24 hours a day. I think he's probably using Boomerang, but because he's like, yeah, I never sleep, but maybe I'm wrong. Like how often do you test him just to see if he's sleeping or not?
I mean, I think like I'm not in the business of, I wouldn't do that to my employees or Mark Cuban probably as much as I would like to sometimes. But I mean, even today, so yesterday, we probably emailed back and forth like 2 or 3 times. I emailed, sure enough, at like 8:30 p.m. about like an important issue. So it was actually like really good of him to follow up because I think like we were interested to hear what he had to say. And like, sure enough, he wrote us back whenever he could, I guess, yesterday.
Awesome. Yeah. And for those who don't listen to the show very often or first timers, I'm just lighthearted about everything. So I'm not trying to like offend you or put you on the spot, but.
Oh no, but actually it's like, it's a good, you know what it is like too, it's like when he emails us, you're just like, well, if he's working at 8:30, it's true. Like maybe I should be getting my work done too. So I think it's like it's a good, what's the word? It's very effective, I think, in
a little reminder
like, or entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's just a little harder. Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty effective.
All right. So I forget. I thought you were in New York, but I see the Sea Star behind. You're Miami? You're somewhere on the East Coast. Where are you guys?
Oh, no, that's just my kitchen decoration. I'm in Chicago, actually. So Anna and I met in grad school in New York. So that was in 2010, which is when we first invented the idea for inflatable solar lights. And then we continued to work on it. We finished grad school and I ended up like moving to Chicago right after I finished grad school to go to more school. So I moved to Chicago to business school and over the last couple of years, we've actually just grown our business in Chicago because we found great people to work with us here, and just we have an office here. So again, I don't always work out of my kitchen, but
you're hitting the point pretty hard. Do you really not work out of your
I
kitchen?
It's like, no, okay, I work from anywhere.
Yeah.
But
that's freedom.
But what's been really exciting actually over the past year, the important point is like we actually have an office now, and like all sorts of things we didn't have before Shark Tank. For those who saw our update, it was like great to have a place that, you know, we could film that update. So we've had an office since October. So that's also another exciting development.
That's a big move. And actually, I want to talk a lot about kind of the structure of your business when you came in. So just to bring people back to your numbers, when you originally got on the show in season 6, you had already done, it looks like about $1 million in sales in the 12 months leading up to that date, right? So that's great. What I think I remember most is that you talked about doing the deal while you were in college. And I thought, man, I know so many people in college who have like advanced degrees or master's degrees who are having a hard time getting out of their retail jobs because the market's so saturated. It's so competitive. It's difficult. It's not easy to do. So isn't going to college and starting a business that basically bags $1 million before you leave the best endorsement to go to college? Isn't that what everyone should be trying to do?
Yeah, I should say, I'll qualify it by saying we were in graduate school, although I think we were okay if all of America thought we were 22.
Well, you look 22. Sorry, I don't know how old you are.
No, it's quite a bit older. But yeah, I mean, even grad school. So we were architecture students. And I think architects, I mean, even when the economy is hard, you can get, I mean, I think that was definitely, I mean, if you think back to like 2008, like I know a lot of friends that went through a really tough time finding work in that industry. And as a result, I actually think that architects specifically like invent stuff or like they do other things out of necessity. Like they make cool things other than buildings and start businesses out of them. Just because it's kind of like got that, like, I mean, everybody's creative and everybody's already thinking about like new ideas.
Yeah. Well, Brad Pitt's an architect. So, I mean, he set the bar pretty high, but that's essentially.
Yeah. So actually there's a lot of architects, secret architect entrepreneurs. It's like a very small but like loyal, I think, group.
I can picture the reality TV show already. Secret architect. Are you allowed to go on? Because you've got a contract with ABC. So I don't know if you'd be eligible or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, we managed to finish school, but I think we both knew we were like, okay, well, when we had invented our light, like the inflatable by hand, and literally we like put it in the window and then it turned on and we're like, okay, that works. And like, this is something we haven't seen before. And we've just been working backwards ever since. I think we didn't really know like what it was to start a business, being that we weren't business people or like having had exposure to like people running a small business at the time. I don't know what we would have thought if we had. I mean, who knows if we would have.
Right. Well, there are people that are good at running businesses. Their ears are probably just shooting blood. They're like, these guys stumbled on $1 million idea and they didn't even know what they were doing. Drives them crazy.
Yeah, it was just like we hadn't seen it before. We thought it could be useful. So now we know that that's also like a very good premise for starting a business, right? Like you're solving a problem for someone.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, well, okay, how do we get this to the next level or next step? And then
let me ask you a question about that. Was this a school initiated project that you were satisfying some requirements for, or was this something you were doing on the side just to tinker as an architect?
A bit of both. So architecture school is very open-ended. Like they kind of just say like, you know, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And so this was just after the Haiti earthquake. And so the premise of a very open-ended project was to design for disaster relief aid. And so we were thinking, I mean, we saw the news and like the stories like everybody else must remember. It was just like, you know, you saw these awful things, like people just struggling to get by. And there are many more like serious things after an emergency, like medical emergencies, people need clean water. But we were like, well, how can we do our part to kind of design to help people? And we thought that lighting, I mean, we knew about basic solar technologies. So we were just like, well, doesn't this play a bigger role after a disaster? And so our take on it was to design something that could pack flat, and, you know, be a better source of light after dark in the instance where you didn't have electricity. and be distributed in the large numbers that are often required after disasters. And so that's where our idea came from.
So, okay, I got a question for you. When you're looking at what's out there currently, I'm assuming you did some research into what gets sent out for these disasters. Are they getting solar flashlights? Are they getting some kind of portable battery-powered flashlights with like those Chinese batteries in them that kind of don't last very long? Like a HP printer cartridge battery type of thing?
Well, definitely back in like even 2010, almost like 2012, when we first were writing our business plan, like solar technology, portable solar was really new to humanitarian and disaster relief aid. But a lot of those types of organizations that do work and like do things out on the ground after disasters, they're also really smart and educated about like kind of the latest stuff that might be useful for them. So they're very progressive, I guess, when it comes to adopting new technology, surprisingly so. So we kind of just like the trajectory of us coming up with our idea and thinking like, who might this be useful for? And then the receptiveness to portable solar and certain types of like humanitarian aid kind of lined up really well for us.
Got it. And then at what point did you contact them? Was it, so like if I have a client and they're trying to get into brick and mortar and I'll say, look, if you have contacts with buyers, use those buyers, leverage them. They're your friends. They want you to succeed because then they succeed. Are you in contact with people that work in emergency relief, or did you come up with the first prototype, stick it against the wall, as you said earlier, and then call them and say, hey, here's what we have. Do you like it or no? And then they went, yay, we love it. Send them. We'll buy them all.
Yeah. I mean, we always want the second to happen, but the second scenario, some of our biggest customers, we kind of just cultivated relationships with people on the operations side, I guess, of these NGOs. It's a little bit different. It's different than retail in that the buying structures don't necessarily work the same.
Right.
And they vet suppliers in a different way. I mean, retailers, I think, that have their own way of doing that. And then definitely on the NGO side, they have a very specific way, I think, of like evaluating supplier criteria. Some of it was just them reaching out to us like, hi, I saw an article about your product, or I saw your crowdfunding campaign. Could we see a sample? And then, they liked what they saw in the sample. And so they picked our product over whatever alternatives. And then some of it also has been just staying in touch. So when there's no like specific buyer, I think it's more of a like, you just kind of like get to know a little bit more about the organizations, the work that they do, which in many cases is amazingly important, and how you can help them, and just to stay in touch about where we think our lights could play a role in what they do. And that's a process. I mean, I think, it can take a year or two, but it's an industry that I think we're also interested in, always excited to learn about. And of course, when things unfortunately inevitably happen, like with disasters or other things that happen in the world, it's a nice feeling that our products are playing a role, to make a difference in the work that they do.
Well, let's talk about the thing that everyone's going to be interested in. That is how you got to $1 million within a year, especially if you're working NGO. I mean, I've told people who want to get into government contracts, I'm like, imagine enough paper to make a human maze out of, and then turning that into a fun house. Like that's how many obstacles you kind of have to go through. It sounds like you were able to navigate it pretty quick if you were able to get to $1 million in sales within 12 months. So let's talk about how that happened. How'd you do it?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of the little like thing I was doing before, where it was like what we had kind of lined up with the need. So unfortunately, what happened in 2013 was the typhoon in the Philippines. And I think then some of the lights that we distributed through NGO partners after that disaster, some of it was them reaching out to us, because I think you have millions of people affected by these disasters. The alternatives for lighting on the ground, I mean, like we were talking about flashlights, sometimes there are those like disposable chemical light sticks that are distributed, but again, those are just temporary. But a lot of people have to use like candles or kerosene lanterns, which are really bad for health, or like all of these things can cause fires. So I think it was also the organizations picking up on the need as well, and then reaching out to all sorts of solar technology providers.
So no pun. It sounded like it really was the perfect storm for you guys, just in terms of timing.
Yeah, it wasn't just our lights on the ground. I mean, I think, like I said, there's been a lot of growth in that market then relative to 2010, or at least when we first invented our light. But that's not the only thing that happened in 2013. We were also slowly growing we were growing our business on Amazon. Also certain outdoor retailers, including internationally. So I think at that time we were in like one of Australia and New Zealand's largest camping stores. We were in LL Bean here in the US. So we had started to collect like a good and growing roster of, I guess, retail and other types of online stuff here too.
And actually, okay, so I've got a couple questions here I definitely want to get to. Your Amazon rating's pretty good. How is Amazon for you as a vendor/partner? You pretty happy with what's happening on Amazon?
Yeah, we're very happy. I mean, I think, well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, we're fine with Amazon. It's one of those things where it's like, why we do Amazon is because when you have like opportunities like Shark Tank brings, we could sell our product through our own site, but we want to make it just as available as possible. So we understand that like many millions of people, for example, at home watching the show, want to Google it and then just they like buying things off Amazon.
Yeah.
So we're happy to make it available there. And yeah, we're also very pleased that our products are really well rated. So that's also, I think, a good thing for people to see online.
Yeah, the 4.5 stars and the pictures and testimonials. I mean, you kind of have to be there. But I want to come back to what you said about the market being hot, because at the very end, during your, I call it the walk of shame, although yours is pretty good, when you're walking out and they start talking behind your back and you never hear it till you air, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Kevin made a comment about the something could surpass this in 2 seconds. Now, I realize it's sour grapes because everybody had offered you money and you only took Mark's money, but everyone who goes on the Shark Tank experiences this to some degree. So when we start talking about Shark Tank, remind me to bring that back up, because I think that's something, if I'm Mark Cuban, that I'm very sensitive to as soon as you go big on Shark Tank, that all the other, what does he say? The innovators, imitators, and idiots, right? All the innovators are going to get crowded by the imitators. So let's talk about, you mentioned Haiti, you mentioned the Philippines, but I remember you saying you were also in Japan. Were you in Japan when the tsunami hit and the reactor was flooded?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, that was March of 2011. So it was like just over a year after we'd first come up with our idea. And Anna and I, so when we were in architecture school, we still had, architecture school was a 3-year program. We came up with our idea about halfway through. And then we had like another year and a half to go. And like I said, we kind of thought there was something more to our idea. And there's a lot of group work in architecture school. So right. Anna and I like very consistently partnered up with each other on all sorts of projects, because we both knew that we would probably like potentially fail our classes together, but like still quietly be working on our on our idea.
Right.
So we were both like together. We were both on board with that, I think, together. We passed, but
barely.
So we were working on another project for school a year later. And so we were working together again on that project. And that's why we were both in Japan traveling as part of a school project.
Just based on your track record, the reason I brought it up, I'm like, I think at this point, if a customs agent sees you traveling international, they're going to say, you know what, maybe you guys should go back home. We've had enough disasters.
Yeah.
You guys literally are a walking disaster.
It was a total coincidence. But, Japan really has a lot of that stuff figured out. And still they had issues with electricity. So I think it was kind of for us a wake up call that, okay, well, this idea that we've had kind of in the back of our minds is useful in a lot of different situations. And we lived it just by total coincidence. So,
well, let's talk about, okay, so you're at $1 million in sales. When do you decide to go on Shark Tank? Did they contact you as a result of, because you were on Kickstarter? People who want to go on Shark Tank should be on crowdfunding sites. I'm sorry, it's true. Is that how you got contacted, or did you initiate?
No, so we were on Indiegogo, and I'm not trying to correct you, but I just want to give Indiegogo a little shout out.
You're
so
right. It says crowdfunding here, so my mistake.
And that was back in 2011 when it was like crowdfunding was like not the universe that it is now.
Right.
But that was it was definitely a good start for us. And then we actually applied through the website, I think sometime in 2013. Yeah. So it's like for those people who think they don't read like the form on the website, in our experience, they do. And then we heard from them for the casting for season 5, and they said, like, thanks for staying in touch. Like, we don't think it's right for the season, but we might contact you next season. And this is after we had talked to the producers for a while. And we thought, okay, like, personally, to be honest, I thought it was just a line, like
we're just not that into you
on the show, like nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
But, yeah, I didn't think they were going to call back, but then sure enough, they called back for season 6. And then I think at that point, within like 6 to 8 weeks, we were filming. So it was that second round was really quick.
Awesome. Good for you. Now, open call season's coming up. When this airs, I think we'll be a couple weeks away from the next open call. So do you have any advice for people trying out this season? Anything you would have done differently? Anything that surprised you or scared you to death that you want to warn people about?
No, it is a TV show, and I would keep that in mind every step of the way. Like, they're not necessarily picking the best businesses to showcase.
Hey, give yourself some credit. You guys were doing pretty good.
No, yeah. I mean, they have to make good TV. And on that front, it was like, that was kind of the advice we kept getting. And I think, so it was just like, can you be higher energy, like, along the way? I think Anna and I were mostly just ourselves. So we're not used to being on TV and like doing things for the camera. So we tried our best through the process, and they like coached us along the way. But yeah, I think we had like a really good experience on the show. Overall, like, it was just very positive. And I can't say anything but good things.
Excellent. Yeah. The architect sororities aren't known to be like the craziest on campus, right? So I get that. Like, give us a little more.
Well, it's also like our idea too. I think too, it's like, it was really nice of them to showcase, like, and they've done this. I've seen a lot more companies on the show that have kind of a social mission as well. So we do like a ton of charitable projects behind the scenes through a programming called Give Light, Get Light. It wasn't something we talked about on Shark Tank, but it's very much like on our website. Like, people can buy lights for themselves and donate them to charities that we partner with for different causes. And I've seen, I mean, within the last couple seasons, not that I've done like the data, not that I have the like exact data on this, but I've seen more companies that have social missions represented on Shark Tank, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's funny because especially in terms of the Reddit group, some people love it, others don't. But I think it is a TV show. They're looking for the right mix of what's going to really pull at the heartstrings or the emotions or it's an entrepreneurial program. So they're just kind of trying to give a variety. I'm curious how much of that we'll see this year, because I think in season 6, there was a lot of that. So
yeah. I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's like, in a lot of cases, it's sort of like the companies are going out of their way to make those missions like a part of their business model. And so it's just a really nice like thing to be able to, I think, showcase that to America and like get other people on board with whatever the cause is.
Yeah. Speaking of, in your update, which aired, was it January 8th? So just earlier this year. And we had to wait to do our interview till after that, because obviously you told me it was going to be really good, which it was. And so $1 million pre-Shark Tank, $2 million within 9 months of airing. That's phenomenal. And then in your update, you were in Africa. So they sent the Shark Tank crew to Africa, or did they save money and just call it Africa and it was like New Mexico or Baja California or something? Because it looked like Africa.
No, we actually went to Malawi. That was our first time like on the ground in Africa. It was really, actually, I mean, we're very lucky to have those kinds of opportunities as a result of this business, I think, to travel and like meet people and see parts of the world that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. The Shark Tank crew did not make it to Africa.
You had the locals holding, did you have the locals holding the cameras and the lights? What'd you do?
No, we got very lucky. We were there visiting projects that had been run by one of our bigger customers, Shelterbox.
Okay.
They're an NGO. They're based everywhere. They do work all over the world. And there was some very bad flooding in Malawi that had happened 7 months earlier. They went in, distributed aid to thousands of families. And then we went and including Luminaid lights. And then we went to just kind of catch up with what had happened on the ground since that time. And they had a very professional, highly skilled videographer accompany us on the trip. So if you look closely, I think on our episode, you'll see a little credit for Liv Williams from Shelterbox.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Shark Tank team came to Chicago, I think like a day after we got back from our trip. I forget by now. I think we were just like totally out of it, but I'm glad the whole segment came together.
I don't remember seeing your kitchen in that B-roll, so I'm glad they got you out of the house for a little while.
It's a good thing, because it would have been a lot worse shape then.
So I want to go back to your presentation, and I also want to talk about in terms of what Mark has brought to the company. You said some interesting things. One is the partnership with Columbia. Now, I've got some friends who are on the entrepreneurship boards or panels, or they're employed by universities to run the entrepreneurship programs. And the students do some really incredible work. They have Shark Tank symposiums. They bring in speakers, like really exciting stuff that they didn't have when I was in college, or if they did, I was doing something stupid and wasting my time and not going to them. But you mentioned a couple things. One, that between crowdfunding and grants, you had won $195,000 to put into the business. Now, this is another thing that I think older business people are going, man, how do I get my hands on some of that cash? But what was the hustle factor to get all that money? Indiegogo aside, what about the rest of it? Did you just have to apply like a scholarship, or did you have to show up and do the hard sell and give them like the Jim Cramer pitch of buy, this is why I need the money? Talk about that.
Well, I will say it definitely helps that we were eligible as students. And again, then like we had Columbia was good to us in the early days too, because you have to understand, like we were two architects shopping around this idea for what looked like a plastic bag with a solar panel on it. And even outside of the architecture school or students, they were just like, well, we have like some entrepreneurship resources, maybe even some engineering resources. You might want to talk to people in engineering school. So they're very supportive. And we wrote our business plan, or a version of our business plan, when we were architecture students, which was also an interesting experience, because then really unexpectedly we started into later rounds of certain business plan competitions and pitch competitions. And we were like definitely deer in headlights. But like I said, I think knowing like less was almost a good thing, because we were just like ready to pitch. We were like very passionate about our idea and like what we thought we could do with it.
Yeah, because also I'm thinking if you know too much, you might look at it and go, well, it's a light in a bag. So, and you listen to people. I'm sure you got criticism or you got negged on, right?
For sure. I mean, well, you get feedback. I think that's another good thing about the process that these competitions put you through. So you like get feedback and like more connections, so you can take all of that back to your business plan or your product to try and like take things to the next step. And I mean, yeah, I think in some of those cases, I don't know, it's like luck, timing, and also just the hard work we had put into our business plan to take it from one competition to the next. We were able to get, I think, enough money to kind of keep us in the game for a while until when we filmed Shark Tank, it was also really good timing because we felt we were ready for an investment deal.
You're ready. Is that code for like, we were down to our last 50 grand and we wanted to go?
No, it wasn't that bad. I think it was just like good timing to then like double down on growth.
Oh, gotcha. Like we really want to go to Cancun, but we needed a new mold. It was good timing. What did you spend the $145,000 on? Was that inventory? Okay.
Yeah, inventory.
I'm wondering about this, these royalties, because you look at universities and right now there's a lot of talk about, the fact that the cost is out of control and the fact that the government has taken over the student loan program and they're balancing that. And I look at this entrepreneurship program as them being like the personal Shark Tank in every major city, because if they're already getting royalties, I know a lot of the universities will own a portion, if not all the patents. Is this a way for them to bolster the endowment of the college? Like, are they going to turn into entrepreneur training centers and they don't need Shark Tank anymore? What do you think about this? Because you've personally done it. And you've had to negotiate it with Mark and the university.
Right. It's an interesting, the college tech transfer process is an interesting ecosystem, I guess. And we are a unique case in that we were the students who also invented something that then wanted to start the business around that to market it. But that wasn't something we figured out right from the start, which is the history as to why we also talked to our university tech transfer office. Because what universities do have is like resources across the whole cross section, right? So if we didn't want to start the business and market our idea, eventually get on Shark Tank and all of that stuff, then there are probably people in like a business school at Columbia or the engineering school at Columbia who might be interested to take something to the next level. So student inventors, the idea behind the licensing is you would benefit from that somewhat as you moved on, to your profession or your job. So I think if you're kind of just like looking to invent things and you happen to be in a university, it's not a bad option if you decide you don't want to be the entrepreneur behind it. We just decided to take a different path, I guess.
Yeah, either way, they have every resource. You talk about Mark Cuban's team. The university has every resource just in terms of alumni and lab and facilities and equipment and financial that you could need. So I'll be interested to see how that pans out over the next 10 years or so. So you went in and you asked for $200,000 for 10%, and you got an offer from every single shark in the tank. Congratulations, by the way. Very impressive. What were you hoping for? In terms of, obviously nobody wants to leave the room crying, so check that off the box. But what was your optimal scenario? What did it look like before you actually got there?
Okay, well, we practiced like everything. I mean, we like really were, I think we did a really good job of preparing. So it's like, that's tip number one. Tip number two is like practice for all scenarios of offers. Like we did not expect to get 5 offers. And I think in hindsight, if we had kind of practiced that or practice isn't the right word, prepared for that a little bit more, like maybe the outcome would have been different. Just because when you're in the moment, like you really are not thinking like, okay, like this was my plan and this is what I'm going to do. We really made that decision to go with Mark pretty much on the spot. I think if people watch our segment, they'll see that that was totally the case.
It seemed like it, yeah, but I know not to trust the edit completely, so I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, well, no, I think we really did feel that like all of them would have made like great partners. The one unknown is like you don't know if it's going to be Damon. Right, we had Damon, who if he was the one to have made us the offer, if we'd gotten the right kind of like numbers out of it, we would have totally done a deal with him. Or like, I mean, all of them really, I think, even Kevin, I was like hoping that maybe Kevin would make not a royalty offer. Cause I think like, I like some of the deals he's done, like just the normal deals. So that might have added like a different twist to it. But yeah, we kind of just made the final decision on the spot. And then like, we're really happy with it the entire time after we walked off the show. So it's like, that's how I think you really know, like, it's just, if you have no open questions about what you just did, I guess yeah,
if you go shopping and you love the blouse like a week later, you know, you made a good choice, right? Like you wake up with regrets.
This isn't a very scientific answer as to what we were thinking might happen and then what we thought we might decide upon. We did, I think, say that one thing Anna and I, we thought we were going to step out and like discuss, which is what we said on the show. Because the producers tell you too, like they don't want you to make life-altering decisions right then and there if you think you need to like, I don't know, take a moment. And I think that's going back to what you were asking about, like our experience on the show was good because the producers were like always very open-minded about stuff like that.
But if I recall from memory, the Sharks nixed that. They barricaded the door and said,
they did, and that's also something that's very real about the show. Like people should realize, like the Sharks really do or say whatever they want.
Right.
And then, yeah, but we were really happy, I think, with the decision and 200,000 for 15, which was like the first part of Mark's offer. That was what we had discussed as like the top that we were willing to accept. So it was good that everything kind of lined up, came together.
I liked it at the end. I'll play the clip during our intro when he goes, "Thank you." Sorry, I laughed so hard. Now, so Kevin O'Leary offered you a royalty, and it's true. He's been doing a lot more equity deals, but I think when he realized you were already a member of the royalty club, he thought, okay, well, perfect fit. Damon wanted to have you license the product so you could focus on being product creators, which I thought was an interesting offer, depending on your proclivities. My favorite, though, was when Lori talked about how she loves your message and you can change the world and you got girl power and she believes in you. And then Mark mocked her for making you a worse offer than anybody else after all that good stuff. So no, it was Damon said greedier than Kevin on that one. And Mark.
Oh no, that was Mark, I think. But we didn't think of it that way when Lori made the offer. We were just happy.
That's my job, but no, it was great. It was entertaining. And then Mark wanted to know questions about other niches you've gone into. Can you make it bigger? You know, what's down the road? You mentioned life jackets. Has any of that materialized? It hasn't been that long since you were on. So are you focusing on any of those other niches or categories, channels, etc.?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I think the goal is to always find like new opportunities. I think this year our strategy, rather than just like go with the same products to like different markets, we've also learned a lot about what we can do with like solar inflatable technology or solar technology that packs flat, other performance parameters. So we're really hard at work right now with new products, which can't say too much more about those, but we're excited about the opportunities that a lot of that present in new markets and some of the ones that we talked about on the show.
When you're walking out during the walk of quote unquote shame, Damon asked for a job and Mark said he wouldn't hire him. Have you actually received his application? And if so, are you considering it?
We have not. If Damon ever is watching this, I mean, Anna and I still own the majority of the company. So if Damon applied for a job at Luminaid, we would absolutely hire him. And Mark owns 15%. So
you got 2 votes against 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Let's talk about the thing that I think is the other item that people are really interested in, because a lot of them want to be partners with Mark Cuban and they realize the odds are not good that will happen. What does he bring to the table? What's kind of the agenda when you get together and you finally sign your deal after Shark Tank? What do you say? All right, ladies, you're doing great. Here's what we're going to focus on. Is it all you giving him input and him interpreting it and spitting it back out? Or is it, here, look, here's what I think are the missed opportunities. Here are the directions we need to go. Here's a low-hanging fruit that you're not seeing. What does that conversation sound like, and what do you do from there?
Well, the structure of the exchange is we email Mark weekly. I email him every Sunday night, and you give him like a sales update, and then he wants the good, the bad, and the ugly. And based on that, or like additional questions we have of him, he responds. Sometimes like right away, even on the like Sunday night at like 10 p.m. And in terms of his team, so some of the things like right away that they helped us with were like on the accounting and bookkeeping side. He has like full service bookkeeping, which is actually a really big help because it's one less thing that might have taken up, say, I don't know, 10% of every day, really, when you're a small business owner. Like,
yeah, and it's the most boring job on the planet. Sorry to the accountants out there.
Yeah, so now we have somebody who just helps us make our financial statements, and then we get to make like strategic decisions based off that. So that's been very helpful.
Great.
And then business development support. So new opportunities that they're bringing to their Shark Tank businesses. Anytime Luminaid can be incorporated in one of those things, we get an email or a text saying like, follow up on this. So
was that the catalyst for like your Zulily and Brookstone deals?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's just really nice because the retailers are doing everything for, say, a dozen of Mark's companies at a time. We're all participating in it. So it's just a very like efficient process. And we're happy to be a part of whatever comes our way. And then, other business relationships. I mean, even on the legal side. And it's just so like the legal thing is a good example because that's a minefield, you know, when you're a small business owner. And you're like, okay, I'm looking to file some new patents, for example, and I need an IP firm. The choices are many. It can be an extremely expensive process. So in 1 minute, if Mark's like, let me introduce you to the firm that I typically work with, you know they're vetted, you know he's already done the thinking for you. And like,
those guys are motivated not to tick you off, which is, it's an insurance policy, right? It's great.
Yeah. So I think it's like, exactly. So it's just kind of, he's got enough experience in the team behind him to have done all of this homework. And we're just benefiting from all the new opportunities and like time savings as a result.
Excellent. And that's all good stuff. Anything else? Anything else that you like? Was there a kickoff meeting with Mark, or is it kind of just, here's my team, you're in good hands. Here's like Allstate, right? You're in good hands.
So basically was the second option, which works because it like things happen very quickly. I mean, his team moves fast, and we got lucky enough that Mark was in Chicago for another event like sometime later. And even that, it was like for something, it was like, I remember the tickets for the event were somewhat like pricey. And we were like, oh, sorry, we'll be missing you in Chicago. Like, cause you're not actually going to buy tickets to the event. And then we had tickets like 2 minutes later.
Was that the Ink event that he was at with Marcus?
The Ink event. Yeah, it was awesome. Actually really good. I recommend it to anyone who's like looking to, I think, expand their minds and new entrepreneurial endeavors. So we got lucky, and then we met him backstage, and just gave him our updates. And he, spent a good 15, 20 minutes with us.
That's funny. And the reason I remember that is because I had Marcus Lemonis on the show for the second time right after that event. And I know you told me you listened to my show. I don't know if you heard Marcus's, but he told me that he and Mark spent time together for the first time ever, and probably 20 or 30 minutes, and how he just really, really enjoyed it and thought Mark was a stud. So,
we didn't tell Mark Cuban this, but we were also very excited to be in an event with Marcus. So,
well, I won't say anything. Did you get some time with Marcus too?
Briefly, yeah. Marcus is like walking around the I think like the happy hour or whatever it was after the event. Like,
very cool.
I don't know. I don't know who he was looking for, but like he was definitely a center of attention. But
oh, I'm sure. If I see him up close, I think I'm going to have another belt for him. He's got that Hermes belt that he wears, and I like it because it's H. My last name's Hale, so I like to think there's a connection there. But it's awful. Like Marcus,
he needs a mission bell, right?
Yeah, something. That's the perfect. Or maybe you can invent a Luma belt that lights up at night for no reason. For camping. No, I really enjoyed chatting with you. I think that you guys have just done awesome. Obviously, there was a lot of interest in you on the show. You're killing it in terms of your growth. Let's talk about the good, well, you said the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the ugly of Shark Tank, the competitors, the knockoffs. Without giving credit to anyone, what are some of the things that you look back that maybe you weren't ready for, that took you by surprise or took your attention away from your goal?
Yeah, the competition, I mean, we are in a very competitive market, at least these days. Not on the NGO side necessarily, but on the retail and commercial side.
Yeah.
And all the naivete that I was talking about that may have been an asset, like I wish that, somebody told us, like, when competition comes about, just like play your own game. Because that also would have saved a lot of, I think, like stress and worry. And I think like there's always, I think, going to be, like, the world is huge too. It's like there's always going to be customers for your product, like as long as you do the work, I think, to match that expectation. So like, don't freak out. Like, it's just kind of like, just be rational about it. And that's, I think, been Mark Cuban's advice for us too, which has been really good. And then, yeah, I mean, so that's definitely one of the toughest things, I think, day to day. But in terms of the good, I mean, we have a small team, but it's a good team. Like, our employees are awesome, and we've grown the team. I mean, there's only 4 of us, but we added employee number 2 since Shark Tank. And so being able to have the resources to be able to invest in our employees too has been, I think, one of the like best experiences in having grown this business. So
something I'm really curious about in terms of your business breakdown, and maybe you don't have to tell me exactly, but you've got this retail commercial side that Mark's helping you expand into. The bread and butter, though, seems to be the shelter box and the NGO. What's kind of the percentage breakdown? What I can see more challenges in the retail commercial, more competition. Shelter box seems like they can spread you really far, really fast. Like, tell me about the dynamic between the two, the contrast.
It's about half and half. But then there's also some overlap, because what was kind of surprising that ended up happening is, like, I mean, we have commercial distribution set up in several dozen countries. And in actually some of those countries, they don't have traditional retail networks. Like, you don't just go to Walmart and like buy stuff, but there are people interested in distributing our product because there's a need for it. And so through that need, they see the opportunity to make some money through being a distributor. So there is some overlap there as well that's happened. And I mean, we're happy to work with whomever wants to do business with us. I mean, so long as like it's the right fit. So that's been good too. I mean, I think that's the thing about like a lot of places in the world where they're coming, like more people have cell phones, I read, than there are people on the planet. So it's like new technologies, things like solar technologies, I think are really coming into play in a lot of parts of the world. And we're happy to do business there.
Oh, and one thing we forgot to do before we go, I know you grabbed a Luminaid, but we never showed it to everyone. So maybe I'll put that at the beginning so they can see what it is.
Yeah, speaking of shelter box, so here is...
That looks like a shelter bag to me. Is that it?
Well, these go in shelter box, that I was going to say. So that's a plug. We actually print logos on our lights. That's cool. Another behind the scenes. We didn't talk about it on Shark Tank. Actually, the lights that we handed the sharks were printed with the Shark Tank logo. We got special permission from the producers to do that. But so for anyone who didn't see the demo on the show, you just blow it up like this. There's a valve, solar panel, a rechargeable battery, and then the LEDs in the back. And then that diffuses the light like a lantern. It's waterproof and it floats. And then there are different settings, but on the lowest setting for 7 to 10 hours of charge, you get up to, I guess, can you see it?
Yeah, that's bad.
30 hours of light.
30 hours with that. And so what size is that? That's your standard, right?
This is, we call it the Packlight 16. You get 16 hours on the like middle high setting of the light. And then we have an additional kind of shape. I wish I had one on me. But it's another one that sits flat on a table. You can hang it. There's an adjustable strap. That's our Packlight 12 product. And then that shape also comes in, there's another product called the Packlight Spectra. That comes in 7 different colors. There's like a color changing mode. That's less for the emergency preparedness types, more for anyone who's thinking about having a pool party or something like that, or the kids love it. So we've been thinking a lot along those lines, like how can we expand our technology to new applications?
How busy are you with the disaster relief market here in the States? I would think for people who need like 72-hour kits or, I don't know all the names for them, but the emergency preparedness, disaster relief, tornado kits. I would think you'd be doing pretty well here in the U.S. too, or no?
Yeah, we have a lot of like, I guess, smaller reps and dealers that are like doing business in the emergency preparedness space. And also some of our retailers are placing the product in those sections. So, or like, I guess marketing it that way. So we were in the Container Store at the end of last year, and they trained their employees on using it as an emergency light. So for things like your 72-hour kit, and it did really well. So I think there's a lot of people. I mean, some parts of the country as of late have had some really tough weather. And occasionally we get a note from someone saying like, I didn't, like when I bought this 2 years ago, I had no idea how handy it would come in when my lights went out, like huge snowstorm or like hurricane. So those notes are really nice to read.
Yeah, the guy who's like, my VW bus dome light went out like in the 70s, so now I hang this thing up at night. That's what I would use it for, like when there's not an emergency.
Yeah, also, yes, that's also a real emergency. So
do you have the LED, do you have more than just the white light? Like, can I get the disco ball version of the LED like they sell at Costco? Yeah,
so that's Costco, maybe someday working on it, but the Pack Light Spectra.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm visual. Well, Andrea, I just want to thank you. I know Anna is not here today, but thank her for allowing us to borrow you for a while, and congratulations on your success. I hope that your relationship with Mark continues to bear fruit and blow you guys up. Can you give me kind of a vision for what you see this company being 5 years down the road? And we'll come back in 5 years and see how well you predicted it.
I think more like getting our lights in the hands of more people where they find it useful. Like that situation where, people write to us saying like, I use this after a really bad storm. Like we want, our lights to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's here or in the world. So it's like we're looking for more customers, more beneficiaries of our lights. And we want to like continue to make new products that help people.
Awesome. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for the time, and we wish you the best going forward.
All right. Thank you.
Mark, I think you got a deal.
Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in to the Shark Tank podcast. Please subscribe to the show on iTunes and head over to sharktankpodcast.net to get the show notes from each episode and join the free Shark Tank Insiders list. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Shark Tank Podcast and on Twitter at Shark Tank PDcast.